Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Arnaud Dunisian. I'm here with the school board members. We're at TK Cafe, San Fernando and Cornell. With San Fernando Cornell. With Civic Duty Media. Civic Duty Media tries to get young people and the general public engaged with local government. And the selection cycle, two school board seats are on the ballot. We reached out to as many candidates as we can. Three of you were able to come here. We have Abby Ponzo-Kamkar, James Morrison, Larry Applebaum. And we're going to talk about a couple things we think students in the general community cares about. We're going to talk to you guys about what we think you care about, what you guys think you care about as well, what we think is on the ballot. So we're going to start simply. We're going to start very light. We're going to go around the room. We're going to talk about our favorite book, our favorite movie and song. Just to break it a little bit. So I'll start. I like Frank Sinatra. Not a common pick for our generation. I like Don't Look Up. It's a great movie. And maybe The Republic by Plato. It's dense, pretty dense.
That is quite dense.
So let's start now with you, Larry.
My favorite movie of all time, probably Airport from the 70s.
Yes.
But I loved it.
So good.
And it made me want to fly, and I became a pilot.
Really?
Yeah.
It made you want to fly.
It made me want to fly, yeah. I never knew I was going to, I never knew if I was going to have to, I flew a lot for a long time, so
Really?
I wanted to make sure that I could fly an airplane if they ever got into trouble. My favorite song, probably Don't Stop Believing from Journey, just telling you where I'm coming from. And my favorite book, The Money Changers from Arthur Healy.
Thanks, Larry. And how about James?
Favorite movie, I would have to go with Star Wars. I think all roads as far as science fiction lead to that one movie. There are great movies before that, science fictitious movies before that, but I think that Star Wars is the quintessential science fiction movie when it comes to that genre. My favorite book would have to be Ronin. It's a graphic novel by Frank Miller. That's the one book that got me open as far as his style and storytelling abilities. Me being an artist, that inspired me to go into pursue my career in game artistry. Let's see, favorite song would be Check the Rhyme by A Tribe Called Quest. I honestly believe that they are the greatest rap group ever on the face of God's green earth. I would invite anyone to debate me on that.
The voters just might challenge you, so. And Abby?
Yeah. Favorite I'm trying to think of things that I've probably listened to, watched, read the most times as evidence of favorite. So my favorite movie is probably Mean Girls, because I would say I've probably seen Frozen more times, but that's because I've been forced to by my children.
Nemo.
I'm like, I could recite it. Favorite song is probably Harvest Moon by Neil Young. And favorite book, The History of Love by Nicole Krauss.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Fiction.
Fiction.
Yes.
The drinks.
Oh,
The drinks are here.
Wow, that
So,
looks really
Kilgore and
good.
James.
Thank you, sir.
And you guys don't mind if we partake?
Oh,
No, not at all.
Indulge.
Thank you.
That is insane looking.
Wow.
So, just
Okay, sorry.
this is a segment before we get to the meat of it. So, Abby, James, tell us, what are you guys drinking right now?
I am drinking a Cookie Monster milkshake.
I got a vanilla Thai tea, I think. We were debating, so
Yeah.
I don't totally remember.
The issues that matter.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
so-
a tea. It's a hot tea, and that's
Okay.
what I wanted.
You guys have been campaigning for a couple weeks now. Like, you guys, ideally, the first thing you want to do is present your character to the voter, who you are, what you stand for, and most importantly, why you empathize with what we think they care about. So start simply, just go around the room. Who is a parent of a student at Burbank School? Okay. Who's graduated from Burbank School?
Oh, my daughter graduated.
Has anybody taught Burbank School?
Has anybody taught Burbank School?
Has anybody taught at all?
My wife has.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I taught.
Tell us about that.
I was a high school teacher in North Carolina right after undergrad. So I taught remedial reading and high school English, and it was amazing, but it was not. It wasn't something that like really fit my personality. Like I loved my kids, but they deserved someone who at the end of the day felt super energized by being in the classroom, and it's a job that you can really take home with you at the end of the day. So especially because I was teaching kids who were in 9th grade and were reading at probably the 4th, 5th, 6th grade reading level. And so I felt like a lot of pressure to bring them up to speed very quickly so that they could graduate high school. And a lot of them did. I went back to see them graduate high school, which was really cool.
And James, you said your wife teaches as well. Is that in Burbank?
Yeah, she used to teach in Burbank. Now she teaches in Pacoima. She used to teach, she was the media tech over at Burbank, so she taught computers
Oh, wow.
over at Walt Disney Elementary School.
Yeah.
And they just fell in love with her. I fell in love with her work ethic and as far as how the students loved her and wanted to give back to her. She was like she was a celebrity because she knew how to get to the student's heart, and that's what inspired me. Not a lot of teachers out there who know how to do that, but I'm just in awe of all teachers who can actually go out there and give their all and reach the hearts of these students.
And certainly, I mean, it's becoming more and more difficult profession to get into. Now let's move on, just before we get into the standing issues of things that might have plagued Burbank longer, things you might care about. Burbank is often touted for its education. People are told people move here because of their education system, and that is true. What makes you guys, briefly, within a minute or so for each of you, why is Burbank such a unique?
Why is Burbank education so unique?
Yes, why do people flock here for education?
I think those might be two different questions. Because I've been in education a long time, and I'll have people reach out to me, friends from business school around the country who will say like, I went to great schools. What's the difference between an 8 and a 9 school? And the answer to that is almost always just income. So usually things like school ratings, which is how a lot of people choose where they're going to school, is very much correlated with income. I think Burbank is actually, what does make Burbank unique is how diverse this city is while still maintaining really great schools. So it's a small enough school system where you can have several Title I schools, you can have many languages being spoken, right? I think we have almost 15% English language learners.
Right, yeah.
I don't have my sheet in front of me,
But it's up.
but it's up
Yeah.
there. And I think that's what makes it unique, is we're able to take a really diverse population and still have those high performance scores and good equity.
Yeah.
That's one of the main reasons why I love Burbank schools is, to have these points, the diversity. You have different viewpoints on how the world, different lenses on how the world should be. And I thank Burbank because our kids are graduating from these schools and they're going out there into the real world with these perspectives in mind. A lot of schools out there, a lot of school districts can't say that about their students. A lot of school districts, their students leaving the schools and they have the same mindset that their parents are having, that traditional mindset, that one perspective, that one lens. But I think that with all of the diverse programs as far as the different festivities that go along with different ethnicities, I think those are very important. I'd like to see those continue and actually expand on those so we can all have, so that our children can leave, more well-rounded individuals.
Yeah, perfect. And Larry, you echo that on diversity?
Well, my daughter was in choir in middle school and high school, show choir. There's no more of a diverse organization in our district than those choirs. We have Asians, white, black, brown, gay, lesbian, transgender. We have them all in there. I couldn't believe how everybody got along. There was none of the tension that exists on the campus, but doesn't in those groups, it doesn't exist. So I think it's a microcosm of how we can actually build on the diversity that we have in our schools, because we are a very diverse community. And I think that that's one of the reasons why parents do come here.
The last couple of years, Burbank schools have been dropping enrollment from about 16,000 to 14,000. Part of that might be COVID. And we've heard there are other concerns, and some parents have concerns of their own. What do you guys think of the cause of that? What do you guys think the solutions are? We'll start with you, James.
Well, I think affordable housing. I think we need to have affordable housing around the schools that are very challenged as far as student count is concerned. If the teachers don't have the resources, if the teachers don't have, if they can't even afford to live in Burbank or given a living wage in Burbank, I don't think they're going to want to stay in Burbank. I think
And that affects student.
because if the teachers aren't there, the students won't be there. It's a problem that our teachers are leaving in droves, and I would like to see them stay. They're not leaving to pursue dreams because I honestly believe that Burbank should be the teacher's dream. I think that Burbank should be the student's dream, and to have them go is a loss of valuable resource.
And progressively, public education is becoming more and more difficult to get kids to go, especially public education in Burbank. And sorry, to get to you guys, cause of solutions enrollment.
Okay. Outreach. There's not much outreach, if any, to parents as they are enrolling their kids or that are new to Burbank. Programs. So we have half-day kindergarten mostly across the district. I've heard directly from people who say that they sent their kids to private school because of that, and then they stay in private school because of that. More programs. We have one dual immersion program that only 400 kids can be in out of 14,000.
It's elementary school, or where's that?
It starts in elementary. It's at Disney and McKinley in Spanish immersion. And it started, I think, roughly like 9 years ago. So those kids have just entered high school. But, Glendale, I think, has 5 languages that they do a dual immersion in. They have kind of STEAM and STEM, all of those kinds of programs that attract parents. I realize those programs are expensive, but so is losing kids. And lastly is after-school care. So I've heard from a lot of folks that, especially at the younger level and in middle school, that there just isn't enough after-school for their kids to take part in, and so they're looking for schools that can provide that.
Right, so I'm hearing teaching, employment, general programs that might be more enticing in neighboring school districts. And Larry?
I think that it's a conundrum because you have natural declines in enrollment. I mean, I was on the board for 12 years previously,
Right.
and I saw it go up and I saw it go down. So you have to deal with the natural declines. A lot of our neighborhoods, especially up in the hills, have undergone a lot of change. And a lot of the established families that are there 40, 50, 60 years are dying, and those houses are coming on the market, and new parents are coming into them out. So a lot of those new parents have kids that are just about to get into school. So on the natural, I believe we'll end up having some growth. I think there are a lot of misunderstandings about how we do our outreach for people who work in Burbank. I think we don't do enough there. That is something we get no pushback from LAUSD because we have a very specific policy that says if you work in Burbank, your child can come to Burbank.
Really?
We don't get any pushback from LAUSD because we don't just say, come to Burbank. We say if you work in Burbank, your kid can come to Burbank. And so we've developed a relationship with LAUSD, which is obviously the biggest kahuna in the district, where they don't harangue us. If you ask Glendale, if you ask Pasadena, ask other communities how they interact with LAUSD, you will see that they have a tense relationship. We don't, because we say, if you work here, your kids can go here.
Right.
And other than that, that's it.
Let's track a couple things. So about LAUSD, Burbank does tend to historically follow patterns LAUSD sets precedent. So when we went online to hiatus maybe 2 years ago, at the end of the year, that was on cue from LAUSD as well, for example. And there's so recently LAUSD has also worked with Metro to offer free go passes very soon. And Burbank could have recently a program to that with the library, from my understanding, for students, and there wasn't traffic for it, there wasn't demand. You mentioned work permits, permits for those labor in Burbank, same as to Burbank schools. Briefly, and I mean, unfortunately, I do mean briefly. Thoughts on maybe the district working with Metro to try and offer transit passes to students, coming into Burbank, maybe to complement, out of city student enrollment.
Support.
Definitely support that.
I support that also.
There we go. We did government. Okay, so now let's move on. So you mentioned the parcel tax. Somebody mentioned the parcel tax.
I did.
You mentioned the parcel tax. Measure right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Measure right. It did pass.
Neither did QS.
Neither did QS.
By surprisingly similar margins.
It was a close margin. We didn't get to 2/3 though. So briefly, Abby, James, and Larry. Let's just say in that order. What are your thoughts on Measure I? Yay or nay? And would you guys support another parcel tax of that nature on the next ballot?
Yeah. I did support Measure I. I was really disappointed when it didn't pass, and so it was very close to it. So I took the money that I would have been added in property taxes, and I started making that donation to the Burbank Education and Arts Foundation because it's not a lot of money. It was not going to be a lot of money for individual homeowners, and people over 65 could be exempt, and I don't know that was communicated well enough. As far as support for another parcel tax, I don't think we take the exact same thing to the voters for a third time unless something demonstrably has changed.
To Abby's point, I believe there was definitely we should definitely, if we're going to have that again, rebrand it, something that's more digestible.
Measure P, maybe.
or Measure A.
A plus.
Yeah, I supported Measure I. I think that at the time I thought it's just a little bit of, it's a sacrifice, right, to get us out of whatever we're in. A lot of people, they are on an individualized mentality, and if we're to get our community up and running to where it needs to be, a great standard to have people want to come here, we need to think about sacrifice, and I don't think that there's enough sacrifice out there. Keep our minds open and keep our hearts open to a little bit of sacrifice. It's not that, as Abby said, it wasn't that much,
So yay on Measure I, again, something in the future.
Exactly.
Okay.
I was against it. I was against Measure I. I was against Measure QS for the exact same reason. They entered into an arrangement with the bargaining units, teachers specifically,
The BTA?
BTA, that said that the first 3% was going to go to them in the form of salaries.
And that's something you wouldn't support.
You can't do that, because as soon as you do that, it becomes fully negotiable every time you go to the table. And we go to the table every year with the bargaining units. So you take 3%, that would have been of the $10 million, these are rough numbers, that they would have gotten, we would have given 3 million of it in salaries to the bargaining units, would have been all 3 bargaining units. And then when you go to the table the following year and you don't have any money to give, they're going to say, but wait a minute, you've got the parcel tax, and you have to negotiate that. That is a death spiral. You just never use parcel tax for salaries. That's just the end of it.
What would you have used it for? Or you just didn't want it earmarked? Because most of the cost in the district is salaries.
That's
there.
right, but you can't use, you can use it for all sorts of things, but salaries. As soon as they put it where they tied it to salaries.
Okay, so is the earmarking
that was a
you didn't
huge,
like?
yeah.
Okay.
Larry, just to that point you mentioned, I'm not sure, you might have mentioned keeping teachers as part of better enrollment as well. If that's not something you'd support, the 3% earmark. How do you think, if at all, BC should work to make it easier for teachers to come to Burbank and stay in Burbank?
Well, first of all, we're never, ever going to be able to match the money that LAUSD gets. There's a huge amount of money that comes with that, with the poverty that those children bring to the school district. So how did we do it for decades? We had good work environments, we had smaller class sizes, we had better professional development, we had better camaraderie and more close relationships that we built because we weren't sending teachers that lived in the San Fernando Valley to Southgate to work.
And to recap again for anyone watching, yay on Measure I, yay in something future, yay on Measure I, yay in something future. Mr. Applebaum, that's nay on QS and I, and something rewarded, maybe rephrased in the future.
Yeah, but we need to deal with a bond, because in 2024 we have one opportunity to put before the voters a proposition that will allow them to maintain the tax on their homes that they're currently paying. They've been paying for many years. If we don't do it in 2024, in 2026, the tax rate is going to fall because the 97 bond will have been paid off. Okay. And then if you go to them, you can't say that you're not raising the taxes. You're saying that you're going to raise the taxes, and that's a very different sell. So I think that, I viewed this and I saw this in 2013. This is the opportunity for us to be able to maintain our facilities because we've done all the build out we need. Abby and James have both said that we have the facilities. Our facilities are slightly underutilized right now.
And the way to compete for maybe teaching staff and employment is facilities and our services, not just salaries and pay.
So, yeah, well, I mean, we need to do that because the facilities otherwise are going to deteriorate.
Yeah.
There's one other thing that I think that we need to mention when you're talking about this because of
I apologize,
economic.
Larry, but we have to keep it brief. So if that's something you want to say, you're more than welcome to speak it. But
Yeah, no. I think that at the end of the day, the pensions that our employees have are huge.
now, on slightly a different tone, we have to address the elephant in the room here. It's not a big elephant.
Okay.
And you may slip, but at least in public, some people, some voters who may have a misconception or what they believe to be the right conception. Dr. Hill was a Broad resident. He went to Broad, and I know Abby, just to address this briefly,
Yeah.
you were also a Broad resident.
I was.
And Dr. Hill did advocate, before he worked at Burbank High, at Burbank schools, for charter schools, I believe in LA. He did advocate of that. And I believe Abby, you were as well. And we know there'll be people who say, you might want to bring that here to Burbank and just settle this on a public domain with other candidates here.
Yeah.
To you and everybody else, charter schools in Burbank.
We don't need charter schools in Burbank. So I work for a charter school organization right now. Like I'm not hiding it. But we work in South and East LA with predominantly low-income students, predominantly students of color. It's a very different communities than what we serve here in Burbank. I do think that we need to be responsive to parents. Parents choose charter schools when they feel like their schools aren't serving them. I believe that we're serving our students academically, so I think our parents will continue to choose us for that. But I do think, like I said, programmatically, we need to provide more choices for our parents so that they stay with us. Do not include charter schools. And frankly, I don't think it's likely, and I also don't think we need it.
James, Larry?
Definitely not in support of charter schools. I think what you can get in a charter school, you can definitely get from public school. I was brought up in a public school. Take that for what you want.
Charter schools are public schools, James.
I was brought up.
That's
I was brought up in a non-charter school, so take that for what what it's worth. But I definitely got what I needed out of my public school, and I don't believe that they should be eating up the same funds that our public schools, our current schools that aren't charter schools, should be eating from. I'm just not in support of them. I think that what we need to Abby's point, what we need to do is work on making the schools that are in Burbank more attractive, get them to where they need to be,
competitive to other
public schools around, that are in our surrounding area. Just come get what you need over here at Burbank.
And competitive to private schools, right? We know that that's another way that people choose, is to choose private.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Matt Hill came here as somebody who had promoted charter schools and went through Broad. One of the first things he did is he got rid of the only charter school we had, which is Options for Youth.
Yeah.
And
Can you tell me when that was?
2017?
2017. And he did it because he said, look at the outcomes, and the outcomes were no better than the outcomes we had in our schools.
The public schools were beating
In the
Burbank charter schools.
yeah.
So we're about an hour in now. Let's focus on, we're going to start winding out, let's focus on some more somber points. Sexual harassment in Burbank schools. This is something that has been an issue for students in the last few years.
Student level or?
So student on student, to be clear.
Correct.
Last number of years, sexual harassment between student on student, especially non-reported numbers have been going up. As far as we can measure, as far as other groups that we can measure. Personal anecdotes, scale surveying even as recently as a number of years ago. And Burbank schools don't historically, administratively have a great track record. And it has recently gotten a little bit worse. There have been, outside admin has allegedly sweep this kind of thing aside and look at expedited solutions, which don't always include, like we call it, don't always include justice. What would you guys do on the board to try to comfort students, families, make it easier for students to come forward for this kind of thing? Whether it be analyzing how admin processes these, or anything else you feel would make it, more comfortable, make a student more comfortable coming forward. with confidence that the discipline system will do what it's meant to.
I feel that sexual harassment is, if it's allowed, if administrators are not paying attention to it, right? If they're allowing it to happen, that becomes a very quick road to more physical sexual assault potentially, right? And so dealing with sexual harassment is a way to root out future harm to students. I think is really important.
So allowing it to go unnoticed prompts a growth.
Yeah.
I believe it. Oh, sorry.
Well, go ahead.
No.
I believe that we should hold those same administrators accountable for looking a blind eye to that sort of thing. Me being a father of a daughter, not saying that it's just limited to sexual harassment is limited to females, but being a father of a daughter, that's one of my greatest fears, right? Is that she goes into these institutions that are supposed to protect her, going in there unprotected.
It does happen to be younger than the average one.
Exactly. So that said, I would definitely try to draw something within our policy to hold those administrators more accountable for looking the other way when this happens. I mean, what are we teaching our students if they are allowed to do that, get away with that? They're going to bring that attitude, that same behavior into the corporate world or to whatever means of employment they'll have after school, post-school. They're going to bring that same attitude towards that. And we don't want to breed that sort of atmosphere within our schools because it's going to go out there into the real world. I mean, it is real world within the schools, but the problem is only going to get bigger if we don't stop it now, quell it now.
Well, I believe that we have kind of lost control of our school sites. And this is all the school sites, not just high school and middle school, but in the elementary grades as well. We need to establish clear boundaries of behavior that we will not deviate from.
Defining sexual harassment, for example.
Sexual harassment, bullying, playground bullying I can't tell you. Now up to 8 parents who have told me, all independently, that when they went to their elementary school principal because their kids were being bullied excessively, they were told, well, maybe you should consider moving your child to another school.
Wow.
That is absolutely the wrong message. When they cross the line, you need to give them consequences that they will actually feel.
Yeah, I think those are all very important points. I think we're all on the same page, which is a good thing. This is the one thing you don't want much dissent on, except on solutions. So we're going to shift back to something we talked about briefly, labor. We talked about labor, we talked about teaching, we talked about employees. Abby, James, you guys, I think it was both of you or one of you mentioned salaries, competitive salaries, competitive pay, competitive benefits. Is there anything else just to cover on this point? Because this tends to be one of the more important things, especially for teachers union. Is there anything you want to say to the teacher, say to the BTA, say to BTA voters who are concerned about their jobs and want to keep working in Burbank but aren't willing to compromise their financial security for that? What do you tell them about what you are as a candidate and how you're going to do that? How you're going to help them with that?
Yeah. I fully understand folks who are both leaving the profession and leaving Burbank because of financial concerns. It's not just salary, right? We've mentioned benefits are very different in other districts, certainly LAUSD because of their funding situation. But what I would like to see happen with our teachers is, one, that we go and we learn more about the ones that we really truly feel are irreplaceable, that are doing kind of the best work in the district and closing the most achievement gaps, and figure out what would give them greater job satisfaction, right? Because it might not be salary, although that certainly helps, right? But like, what's going to keep them here? Is it going to be working with them to find affordable housing, or is it going to be a piece of recognition, right? People are motivated by very different things, and we can't treat all teachers as a monolith.
No, so it's better polling on what it is they care about.
Yeah, polling, but like real conversations.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Well, polling might have been the right word.
Yeah.
Measuring.
Measuring and just actually going out and talking to people and saying, like, we know that you're a great teacher. What is it going to take for you to stay in Burbank?
Yeah. I think the BTA is certainly doing a hell of a job trying to advocate for themselves. They're a massive lobbying entity, and it's really impressive. Larry, James?
Just to Abby's point, just to simply ask them, not to treat them as if they're a voice that's not heard. My wife, for years she, taught at Walt Disney Elementary, and bringing home her paycheck, it's like, wow, that, for what you have to do out there. Out there we have to deal with high gas prices.
Burbank on its own is not a cheap place to live.
No, it's not a cheap place to live by any stretch of the imagination. And to think that a teacher, our best teachers, can stay in Burbank, teaching in Burbank, and not leave because of where we are economically, it's just bass backwards, to put it mildly. We have to just make sure that our teachers are paid well, given enough resources. And how do we do that?
Larry?
There's the budget process is a give and take. You have a pot of money. That pot of money has to satisfy all the needs of all the various interests in the district. The teaching needs, the support needs, the student needs. I think that, to Abby's point, I think we need to find out what motivates our staff. A lot of it we have control over, a lot of it we have no control over. The collective bargaining agreement specifies how we lay off teachers if we have to lay them off. And I can tell you, because I was part of one of the biggest layoffs in the history of the school district in 2008-9 when we had no money.
So
I was there.
Or you were laid off?
No, I was involved in it. I was a board member at the time. We let go some of the best teaching minds in the district because they hadn't been there long enough. Mm-hmm. And we kept some of the people that we ended up going through the termination process to get rid of because they were the ones that had the amount of tenure. There was no relationship between ability in the classroom and the ability to teach kids and whether we were going to be able to keep them or not.
Right. Larry, to cover this point one more time briefly, I'm probably just cut you off, but so if you were elected to the board, you'd act to change that collective bargaining agreement?
You'll never change that because that's the heart and soul of the teachers union. I mean, I tried, and so did all my colleagues.
Yeah.
That's not going to change.
Okay. So moving away from that, we're about ready to wrap up, but briefly before that, I want to go over and ask the one question that tends to be the killer for most campaigns.
Killer.
And it's strangely the simplest one. About Abby, Larry, then James. Why are you running for school board?
I'm running for school board because I'm a mom and I've spent a lot of time in education, both as classroom teacher and then as district staff, whether in project management or now as a chief of staff doing all sorts of random things like strategy and operations and budgets. So I do feel like I've got some experience that helps me know how things work and where there are levers to push on that can actually be changing. And what inspired me to run was the process of enrolling my daughter and seeing, frankly, like what a mess operationally it is. It's confusing. There's no communication. It's confusing. That is our critical business process as a district. Like that is the one thing that gets us money is having kids into schools. And so it has to be so easy to enroll kids.
Cleaning up what might be some undue bureaucracy.
Yeah.
James?
Oh,
sorry, my apologies. Larry?
not to correct
I'm running because in the 5 years since I've been on the board, we have lost a lot of the programs that it took me 10 years to put in place. There is no vision about how we're going to go forward to restore some of the general fund money that has been taken away from us or that will be taken away from us when we have to do repairs that we have no money for. I believe that I have a history of building coalitions, of building consensus amongst a diverse group of people, and I think we need that at this point. When you have school board members turn their back on the superintendent in public, that's just a non-starter for me. When you have a school board member who does not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, that does not send the right message.
James, why are you running for school board?
I'm running for school board because I seriously believe that I bring a different perspective to the school board, perspective that's not currently on the school board. I believe that the leadership in Burbank should be representative of the rich diversity that we have in Burbank. I believe also in unifying the school board. Currently, I've heard from many sources that the way that the school board is being looked at is a school board that's in disarray, a school board that's disunified or disconnected, and I want to bring some sort of unity to the school board because we want to model a behavior that is respective of the children, a behavior that children can look up to, and I believe that currently, with everything that's going on with the school board, that's not happening. There's been infighting within the board, and I believe that, I've said this before and I'll say it again, that we don't need to be a divisive unified school district. We need to be a united unified school district.
And that doesn't mean not having disagreements, it just means doing that civilly.
Exactly. I mean, we just had a conversation with you guys as civil as possible.
Ladies and gentlemen, we know where you stand. We know your pitch to the voter. Civic Community Media is kind of, we're really happy to talk to you guys. So, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you coming here. We thank you, and we did it.
Yay.
We did democracy.
Thanks for having us.
Democracy.
Thank you.
Democracy for all.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. What do I need to pick up?
All right.